My name is David Bryant. I have the good fortune of being your library director. Tonight we asked you to join us for First Light. First light is defined in astronomy as the first use of a telescope in place to take an astronomical image. Tonight's first speaker is Eric Simison. He is president of Seawest Enterprises. For more than 2 years, Eric and his superb crew have been working with the city of Rancho Mirage and our public works team to build the city observatory. Eric attended the University of Southern California and continued with his graduate work at UCLA in engineering and geology. Eric has presented several engineering and science papers, beginning at UC Berkeley and most recently at the Leonard Nimoy Auditorium in Los Angeles. Eric has held the position of Deputy Director of the Mount Wilson Observatory. He was also offered the directorship. He turned it down because he wanted to make a living. He holds a U.S. patent on the engineering design of a robotic telescope enclosure, and 6 of these structures are in operation in the San Gabriel Mountains. Among other clients, Eric has worked with NASA and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory on their Hawaii-based Keck telescopes. Please welcome Eric Simison.
Thank you, David. Well, I am the first Eric squared here. And I'm going to be practicing on a system here with all the telescope experience and observatory experience. We build broadcast centers, transmission centers, and now I'm going to try and run this computer and that screen at the same time while talking to you folks. So bear with me here. So thank you again, David. I appreciate that. We're here this evening to participate with the city of Rancho Mirage on the opening of their new observatory here, and what is, in fact, a new wing of their library. So I thought I might take a moment or two here to look at the lights and talk about the lights here. Here in Rancho Mirage, we can look down at the lights. Here's a view looking to the southeast. We're looking at the Palm Desert area. So looking down is one way. We can look out at the lights. Another spectacular, splendid view of the valley from San Jacinto. But tonight, we'll be looking up. We'll be looking up into the cosmos. The term for this event, the birthing of an observatory, as David said, is First Light. But perhaps a little bit of introduction for myself is in order here before I get started. Seawest Enterprises is a general contracting design build firm. We've been located in San Dimas for about 40 years, have a variety of projects, different scales, different types, but in the last two and a half decades, our niche, my passion has been the designing and building of observatories. And observatories come in all different sizes. There are remote observatories, high altitude observatories, single aperture observatories, multiple aperture observatories where you take several telescopes in an array to create a single image. And these observatories serve a variety of functions. They are lunar telescopes that work at night. There are solar telescopes that work during the daytime. We've built near-Earth orbit tracking systems for satellite tracking, comet tracking, asteroid tracking. Most recently, we've been building laser communication telescopes. And this is why we are here tonight. We are all here to witness the opening of a brand new observatory. As you can see here, construction is now complete, and we're moving forward with the commissioning of the telescope itself. The project began several years ago, as David mentioned, with ideas and actions by all the individuals he spoke of, Dana Hobart, Marilyn Bauer, Randy Biner, and wholeheartedly supported by the City Council. And David himself, the library's mantra, lifelong learning, is upheld by this single facility. And as you can imagine, the list of contributing people goes on and on. David mentioned a few. Dan McKenna, Aaron Espinoza, Charlie Nesbitt, Jesse Eckenroth, project manager Jim Kester is here tonight, and a host of other people too numerous to mention. This facility promises to be one of a kind, with the seeing power of a research-grade telescope and an outreach program linked to the library. It is truly astronomical. The project has been a very successful collaboration between the city of Rancho Mirage, the architectural team headed up by Charlie Martin here, and Sea West Enterprises. Rancho Mirage Public Library is a wonderful information center, has impressive catalog of books, has a presidential library collection, and of special interest to me is the Smithsonian quality mineral and semi-precious gem exhibition there. And the Rancho Mirage Observatory looks to be an exceptional addition to this storehouse of information. The cosmos, our solar system, our galaxy, the universe, they're out there waiting for us to open the pages, to read through the chapters. It's a library in and of itself. But before I get too far ahead of myself, it might be interesting to understand how far the science of astronomy has come, has evolved, and how this new observatory fits into that evolution and that change. Early on, since the beginning of time, man has looked skyward and wondered and questioned and searched. But historically, the science of astronomy has been relegated to a very few individuals. I believe it was in the early 1700s, the telescope was invented. Everybody gives that credit to Galileo, but in truth, it was Hans Lippershey. It was called the Dutch perspective glass. Now, Galileo was the first one to point towards the stars, or one of the first ones, so he's been credited with it. But scientists at that time were very few and far between. You had to have credentials to get on a telescope. You had to be someone of renown. You couldn't simply go out and pick up and use a telescope. And one of the reasons was the telescopes themselves. There were very few good telescopes in the world. They were cumbersome, they were large, they were expensive to build, expensive to operate. And they were occupied, they were by those few individuals who had the credentials, who were really ingrained into the science. And to that point, universities, academic centers were limited in their access to observatories. And their courses in observational astronomy were limited as well, which pointed to limited careers in astronomy. You could become a professor perhaps, or maybe a theoretical physicist. But today, that's all changing. There are equally impressive number of astronomers in work now as there are universities that are teaching it. The term has been coined the golden age of astronomy, and that is today, that is now. This is highlighted by a blossoming of the science in many, many different directions. Here's a small sampling of those types of fields of astronomy, and these are available jobs in government and in the private sector. There are fields of astrogeology, astrobiology, astropsychology, infrared spectroscopy, and on and on. So how did all this growth, how did this blossoming come about? What are the factors that brought this golden age into existence? What helped us move along here? Well, we've made some huge advances in technology in recent years. High-speed computers and processors, new composite materials that are stronger, lighter weight, and less expensive to fabricate, new drive systems, control systems, programs, and hardware. And not the least of which is the availability of high-speed internet and web access, information transfer. And this leads to telescopes. Telescopes, once cumbersome, hard to use, are now being constructed of high-tech materials. They're operated by very precise and smooth drives. They hold high-quality optics that only a few years ago were not even available. And all of this at substantially lower cost than what it used to be. Another factor, automation. During the Industrial Revolution, we thought of automation as wheels and gears, pulleys, belts. We moved from this into electronics and circuitry. At that point, we were able to control systems robotically, which used to be controlled manually. Today, automation is no longer dials and knobs, but it's touch screens and programs. We may not be that far off from autonomous artificial intelligence. So where does all this technology, where does all this advancement take us? takes us to more observatories. More astronomical observatories have been commissioned by smaller companies, universities, secondary schools, cities, and individuals in the recent years. We are building more and more observatories in urban areas like this than ever before. Why? We can build them at reduced cost. The ease of operation is incredible, and they're accessible to a wide variety of the population. All of this is a part of the Golden Age phenomenon. And that brings us to the observatory here. As we can see, the construction is nearly complete. It is complete here. We're looking northwards towards the Whitewater River. The structure designed by Charlie Martin and his team is not only beautiful and operates as an observatory, but it blends with the desert terrain and quite well with the library infrastructure here. Most significantly to me, though, however, is that this observatory is open to the public. People, all ages, old guys like me, and young children are going to be able to walk into this observatory and actually use the instruments, participate in the science of astronomy. Construction of the observatory began back in April of 2017. The observatory boasts a 3/4 meter telescope in the large structure to the left, you see to the left of the crane here. Behind the crane and to the right is the observing deck. This is where lunar and solar telescopes from individuals and clubs can be set. The white roof is the roof of the cosmic office. So this is where operators, technicians, docents will be working, and the entire system will be open to the public. Not only that, but the primary instrument in the dome here, as well as the instruments on the deck, will be able to not only be used through the eyepiece, but they can record their observation in the cosmic office or project their observations into the library where we're sitting here behind in the screen here, or to such locations as council chambers, or globally via the internet. The Sky Bridge on the north side here provides public access into the primary instrument. This is where anyone in the community can go up and utilize the telescope through the eyepiece. The instrument itself is a 0.7 meter telescope. It's a plane wave, CDK 700. The structure of this telescope, the forks, the tubes, the bracing are a combination of lightweight and composite materials. The drives are all low friction, low power, and quiet and programmable. The dome itself is encoded to the telescope, so as the telescope moves, it tracks seamlessly, allowing for uninterrupted viewing of the stars. And some of these images are taken by that CDK 700. Inside the cosmic office, on the lower right-hand side of the screen, to the right side, are the operators' desks that will operate the main telescope. In this screen closest to me here, you can see stations that look out over the observation deck where amateur astronomers can run solar telescopes and lunar telescopes during sky parties and star parties. In the upper right-hand side, you can see a weather station and a sky camera that are mounted on a mast outside the observatory. These systems provide data and fail-safe parameters to the operating systems. Basically, they give go, no-go programs or commands to the systems if there's inclement weather, if there's wind, or if there's storms or sandstorms. They also will allow alarms to be triggered during operation, so the system will go into automatic shutdown if you're viewing when a storm arrives. What is equally remarkable about this is that the entire system can be operated and controlled from remote locations. SeaWest Enterprises, my company, and Paul Gardner of Observatory Systems have enjoyed a working relationship on many projects, and it is his system here that affords the connectivity and the remote capabilities of this observatory. This is a very user-friendly system. Up in the upper left-hand corner is a screen from the Great Basin Observatory we installed back in 2016 with a CDK 700. That observatory has been working for nearly a year and a half with no personnel on site. The system is so user-friendly that a tablet or iPad or a smartphone can be used to run the system. In fact, I believe Paul this evening opened the dome on the way out here from his phone. Not only that, but this system works so well that with a kiosk, large touchscreen like this, a star chart can be set up. You can touch an object on the star chart. The telescope will slew into position, acquire the object, begin imaging and tracking that object with a touch of a finger. This is truly an interactive observatory, and it is truly an interactive science for the community. You can go to the main telescope, use the eyepiece, observe, track, watch events. In the daytime, you can go out on the solar deck and you can do solar observations. But on hot summer days, you could also sit in a chamber or a conference room like this and observe those actual events live via the connectivity of that system. Likewise, you can do the same with nighttime viewing. Planetary observations, comets, satellite tracking can be done at the telescope, from the cosmic office, on the observatory deck, at the library, in the council chambers, or globally, depending on where you want to broadcast to. And in the end, this new observatory will yield images and information that is astounding, colliding galaxies. Eclipses, and in this case, a double eclipse. In the upper right-hand side, you see the moon moving in front of the sun. But if you look closely at the sunspots, the lower right sunspot is not a sunspot. It's the International Space Station transiting in front of the sun. You have a double eclipse. Nebula. Magellanic Clouds. Incredible imagery. Not only beautiful, but full of information. Fantastic cosmic events that today we are just beginning to study and understand. To say that this observatory is an expansion of the Rancho Mirage Library is perhaps a little understated. The sheer volume of the known universe is almost inconceivable. Light traveling at 186,000 miles per second, now we're talking 6 times around the Earth in 1 second, has traveled for billions of years at that speed to reach us now. Library, the stacks in this portion of the library are truly astronomical. Because of the accessibility of this type of observatory, a field of science and exploration that was once the realm of the few is becoming accessible to the many. It's exciting and it's wonderful to see the learning, the understanding, and the intuitive thoughts that rise from people who look through a telescope for the first time, and they begin to think about the vastness and the wonder of our universe. This new observatory will provide an opportunity for people of all ages to see and learn about places beyond our world, to observe in awe at the beauty and wonder at the physics of the planets and the stars. An observatory such as the Rancho Mirage Observatory will offer education, adventure, and just plain enjoyment to the entire community. Through its outreach program, the library and the observatory may well inspire today's youth to pursue answers, to explore, and to discover. Thank you.